What is happening, my people? This is Tim Dodd with the Tim Dodd Show, and today I'm going to give you exclusive access to a sales training that only our paying clients have access to. I literally just finished this live sales training, and if you want your team to close more, if you want to close more, I'm literally going to take you through a 1-hour training that I believe is the most important thing that you and your team needs to know to close more deals. Literally, if you implement this training, it's going to change your sales, not just this week, not just this month, but every single sales call you get on for the rest of your life. If you implement this one simple thing, it's going to change your entire career. Bam! Now, it's free. I'm going to give it to you for free. The only thing I ask is that if you do get value from it, make sure to like, comment, and share. And make sure to share this with your team, your sales reps, all of that, so that they can close more, so that everybody can blow their business up. Now, I'm here to do two things for you to help you sell more and scale more. So after you've watched this sales video, at the end, I have one more bonus training for you you're not going to want to miss. So make sure to stay for the end, because I'm going to give you not just this incredible sales techniques, but I'm going to give you a very powerful tool that I guarantee is also going to take your business to the next level. Who wants to take their business to the next level? Sign me up, brother. Okay, see you soon. A fool says, yeah, I've heard that before, but a wise man says, oh, thank you for reminding me. And I always come again and again and again when we're talking about sales techniques and processes and all of these different things. It's like Steve reminded me of this one of our last trainings where he said, actually, one of the number one things that you guys need to be aware of is how Tim's delivering a message and the conviction that I have when I'm on a call with a client, that I'm literally on a call to serve them. Like, I'm not on a call to close them. Yes, we track all our KPIs and close rates, but we're on a call to serve these people. They have a problem, we have a solution. And so selling is a service, and there's a lot of techniques, there's a lot of framing. If you've gone through any of our sales training or anybody else's sales training, there's a lot of very good techniques, mechanics. But as Steve said, if you do the mechanics without the conviction and the energy and the enthusiasm behind it, they don't really work. And I always like to come back to this active listening training because it's one of those things where if you've gone through a lot of trainings and you're really getting your script going and you've done a lot of sales calls, that this is one of the most powerful sales secret, that if you do this correctly, consistently, it'll change the game. I remember the very first time that I did I call hyperactive listening, where I would literally listen to the prospect on the call, and literally I took this idea from Napoleon Hill in his book, Selling You. I would literally try to visualize what they were saying. And it was like this magic switch turned where when I went to go say what I wanted to say, they listened. And when I would go to like say, hey, let's get this started, they would follow me in. And so it was like, when I first did this, and I took the idea from Napoleon Hill, where I would literally, while they're talking, I'm not thinking about the next thing I'm going to say. I'm literally visualizing what they're saying. I'm trying to get imagery of what they're saying. And, I believe what that does is then when you communicate, you're able to communicate that imagery back to them, because that, we always think in imagery and we use words to try to convey imagery. I used this example with my team the other day during a training, and I said 2 words, and I'm going to put an image in your head. Are you ready for me to implant an image in your head? All right, I'm going to implant an image in your head. Pink elephant. So what I did is I had an image in my head. I used my words to implant image in your head. And that's very, very important, that we're painting the picture of how we can help this person out. So what I'm really doing today is, we can't implant an image, we can't persuade somebody if their guard is up, right? If they're blocking us, subconsciously, consciously, we can't get the imagery through. You're like, man, all the logistics, all the logic, I've proven the ROI, I can show them how much I can help them. I know I can help them, but it's like this wall. Why do I keep hitting this wall? And oftentimes, and I forget doing this too. So this is a little bit of a reminder for me as well. And so anytime you see me do a training, it's usually because I'm either seeing other people, the clients, people on my team, or myself, needs to rehear this. And I think this is something that all of us need to hear again, and we should listen to it often. So we're going to get into active listening, which if you are doing the PIMA 5x5 client closing system, this is the third component of the closing call. I will be literally using today's recording to update the old one because I want to put a little bit more emphasis on it. So if you're watching in the PIMA 5x5, this is the new version. There was an older version. It's good, but I really want to re-emphasize this because I think it's one of the number one secret that if you can start using this right, you're gonna take all of your sales to the next level. Like let's go, Steve. You've done sales training for a really long time. Can you think of anything more important than really truly listening to the prospect?
It's number one by far, Tim. At number one, and I'll just say this even before, I'm sure you're going to cover things like this, but when I do a sales presentation, I'm asking questions and listening more than I'm telling anything about what we do. Our presentation's very short because we've designed it that way, but we care about them. We listen to them. It's number one by far.
Yeah, I would agree. One of a good friend of mine, he's a career salesperson, incredible, like multi-million-dollar deals he's bringing in with, Carnival Cruise Lines. And, I'm actually meeting with him for cigars later today. Just incredible. One of the best sales guys I've ever met. And he always says, your goal of talking is to listen. You're talking to get them to talk and so you can listen. And if you can get them talking, that's how you make the sell. And most people have a negative connotation with sales because they are associating with the amateur and the plaid shirt that, hey, what's it going to take to make this deal happen today? And so we create this negative connotation with sales. And then so we say words like, I don't like sales. I'm not a salesman. I don't like being salesy because we're associating a negative. We're looking at sales as a whole and we're associating with the bad one. I always say it's like this. We only notice the bad nose jobs and say, oh, no, I would never get a nose job. I don't have a nose job. But guess what? We probably don't notice the really good ones because they were done really well, right? And I'm in Miami, so there's a little bit of plastic here and there. And so you definitely notice the bad ones, but you can't really notice the good ones because it was done right. And that's what I say about sales is if you're doing sales is service. For sure, the world economy would stop if we got rid of good salespeople. Without a transaction, there's no value. You could be on 1 million good calls, but if you do not close the deal, if you do not get paid, and you do not start helping them, you can't help them. They're going to go out and try to figure it out themselves and then not do well, or there's no value exchange until we close. So number one, I always say, and I'm getting a little off on the subject, but just to reinforce, the number one thing that you have to have is your mindset right with selling. Paula, you wanted to jump in real quick?
So I have a question for you. I mean, just like we have impressions of what salespeople should be that we don't want to taint when we're selling, but our clients have the same issues as well. How do you deal with that coming in? Because that's how they're already thinking. The used car salesman approach. I hate salespeople. Salespeople are bad. Blah blah blah. How do you approach that when you come in?
All right. Number one is active listening. Number one on the list. So that actually the answer to your question is the entire training today, because you are right. We have to remember if you've ever been on the other side of a sales call, you come on, you're guarded because you're coming in to talk to a salesperson, and a salesperson can be varying and very, very wide. And so number one that we have to really build strong trust. And I guarantee if you do this, it's going to be like this weird magic switch that flips where your prospect starts listening to you, your prospect starts trusting you. And, you're not going to close 10 out of 10 deals, but you're going to start finding that you're removing friction. Because the reason why deals don't close is a few reasons, but one, it's that you're not 100% sold on your product or your solution. That's like the number one. So would you pay full price for your product or solution? Would you go get a loan for your product or solution? Would you pay twice the amount for your product or solution? And, I for Pima, what we offer here, that's the one thing that I freaking love is I go, every single product that we offer, I would pay for it, and I would pay more than what I charge for it. And so being sold in your product. And then number two is having that conviction is that they feel listened to. And there's more lists I could go on. But that first one is your conviction. Whoever's the most convinced will generally make the sell. So if they're more convinced that your product's not a fit, then you're convinced that the product is a fit, they're going to walk away. So you have to have that conviction, number one. But to really answer your question, let's jump in. So active listening is the third component to the closer's call. As a client, you have access to the Pima 5x5, and I'll be updating this in there. So being heard is so close to being loved that for the average person, they are almost indistinguishable. Let me say that again, just in case you didn't catch it. Truly being heard by another human being for the average person is so close to being loved, the feeling of being loved, that is almost indistinguishable. And that was written by David Agsberger in his book, Caring Enough to Hear and to Be Heard. So let's think about that just really, really, truly. When you go into an example of times that you were talking to somebody, man, maybe you were dealing with some stress, maybe you were trying to solve a problem. Just remember, everybody's on the phone with you because they're trying to solve a problem and they think you may have the solution. They're not going to be on the phone with you I'm interested just to see what you have to offer. No, they've got a problem and you have a solution. And they're hoping that you can actually solve that problem. And if anything, you're the one messing it up. We're the ones that mess it up when we don't paint the picture right, because they've got a problem. We got the solution. If we can't communicate that solution properly, then it's not going to close. So let's think about this, right? If it is the right fit and is the right solution, the one thing we have to do to build trust is to listen. Let me ask you a question. When you've been going through the struggle, going through whatever, and you had a genuine friend that maybe you grabbed lunch with, you grabbed coffee with, and they were they just genuinely listened to you. And when you got done talking, they didn't jump in with their opinion. They just listen. Okay. Huh. And when you would be done talking, they would even pause, they're still thinking about what you just said. And then they would go in. How does that make you feel when somebody cares about what you have to say so much that when you're done talking, they literally pause and they process it for a minute before they give you a response? How does it make you feel, Paula?
Actually, it makes me feel pretty good, because especially when they're asking questions and there's a phrase that a friend said to me, it's a year ago. And later on, I went back and I told them how I felt that day. And that's how I got to the 7 habits of highly effective people, because they're that's where I got it from, because I've been practicing active listening. And so he said to me, wait, can you stop for a second? Because I don't want to get what you said wrong. Can you explain this little part for me? And then, I said, okay. And he's like, all right, go ahead, because I really want to get this. Go ahead, and it felt really nice that someone really, they were actively listening. You know what I mean? They weren't just kind of, so, and so I've been trying to practice it myself. Yeah. It makes you feel good that someone's listening to you,
Absolutely. They actually cared, and so much that can you go back and re-say that? I want to make sure that I fully heard you.
Heard you. Yeah.
Yeah. Great. Fantastic. That lesson right there. Imagine if your prospects felt that about you on the call. Imagine if your prospects felt what you felt right there, genuinely, not that you were using some technique, some tactic, that they genuinely felt that you truly cared about what they were saying, and you weren't just listening to go, yeah, let me close you. Yeah, let me close. Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah. If they genuinely feel that, how much better do you think literally every sales call that you've ever done would have gone if that person on the other line felt that, that feeling that, wow, this person really genuinely cares about what I'm dealing with, what I'm feeling? How much better do you think your calls would go, Joseph?
Oh, way better. It'd be easier to crack the nut. It'd be easier to close them in the end. Way, way better.
100%, 100%. So let's do this. If being heard is almost indistinguishable from being loved, my friends, how does it feel when someone is clearly just listening to speak? Right? Okay. So I'm gonna do this. I don't want to pick on anybody, but so I know Joshua, can I pick on you just a little bit?
Go for it.
Okay. Tell me like what's going on. What did you do over the last weekend? And I'm gonna do what most salespeople do with not even knowing it because they're just trying to follow their script. Go ahead. What'd you do this weekend?
Last weekend, I went to Tenochtitlan, Mexico.
Okay, cool.
Good.
Oh, hey, if you like what we're talking about today, who else is involved in making this decision?
That's got nothing to do with what I just said.
do you feel like, now that's an extreme example, but how did that feel? Like what was the feeling? Did you feel kind of like fuck this guy?
Yeah, like I'm wasting time like answering your first question because you're not even listening.
What? Sorry, what'd you say? I wasn't listening. No,
Exactly.
like it feels like, yeah, you're just like, this person obviously has no interest in serving me. And remember, I'm going to say this over and over again in today's training, selling is service. So if your selling isn't serving, then you're not selling properly because selling is service. That's the mindset you have to get. But remember, if you're not serving that person, you're going to have trouble selling them. But if that person genuinely feels heard, understood, they might not close right now today, but a lot more of them are going to. And a lot more of them are going to be like, you know what? They're going to have a call like, dang, like, I really feel like that person's got my back. Like, I'm still a little bit uncertain about the numbers and the risk and all that, but I truly feel like Tim is going to fight for my success through the ups and downs. Like, wow. How cool would that be if your prospects felt that like, damn, like, I really feel like, Joshua will fight for our success. He's not here just to get a client. He's literally here to build a lifelong relationship of serving us with this product. Like and that's what we want to try to do. And it might seem really extreme, but I want us to really dig deep into this active listening because the experience that you just have there where Paul, where you're talking about like, wow, that felt so good when somebody truly wanted to, they paused me, they stopped me, they made me reset because they wanted to know how I felt versus, yeah, okay, all right, perfect. How much revenue do you want to do? Okay, cool. What's your goals? And if you like what we're doing today, it's like, they're just like, dude, I don't even want to be on this call anymore. So let's jump in. I'm going to give you something fun. Are you guys ready to do a little bit of a fun thing? I haven't done this on a video before, but I'm going to give it to you. You ready?
Sure.
Let's jump in. Have you heard of the Me Monster? Brian Regan? Anybody? Okay, I'm gonna do this little skit. It's a really, really old comedy skit, but this is Don't Be the Me Monster. And as a salesperson, there's a thing that he does at the end where he goes, yeah, me. I want you to pay attention because this is I like using extreme examples to point out small little things we do. And if you've ever noticed, comedians, what makes a great comedian is they find tiny little like weird things people do, and they build up these extreme characters on them. So be very careful that you're this me monster. You might go, oh, that's not me, but just be very aware that you're not even doing it on a small level, especially on your calls. You ready to jump in?
I'm actually kind of quiet on
Can you
stage.
hear this?
A lot of people don't realize that. I was at a dinner party recently. A bunch of people that I don't know. One guy talking plenty for everybody. And then me, myself, right? And then I, and then myself, and me. I couldn't tell this one about I because I was talking about myself, and then me. Beware the me monster. So I tried to jump in with a little story. I don't want to just sit there the whole night. Right when I'm done with my story, this guy goes, that ain't nothing. Oh, well, didn't mean to waste everybody's time. Telling my nothing story. Here, let Marco Polo speak. He's back with tales of adventure. My story ain't nothing. Maybe it wasn't, because I made the mistake of trying to tell a story about having only 2 wisdom teeth pulled, and I learned a lesson. Don't ever try to tell a 2 wisdom tooth story, because you ain't going nowhere. The 4 wisdom teeth people are going to parachute in and cut you off at the pass. Halt! Halt with your 2 wisdom tooth tale. You will never complete one, trust me. I'm trying to tell my story. You know, I had some wisdom teeth pulled. I had 4 pulled. Oh, okay. No 5, no 9. I had 9 wisdom teeth pulled. All of mine were impacted. They were all coming upside down. The roots are wrapped around my tongue, coming out my nose. They were tusks. I was a warthog. No anesthesia. They pulled them out with pliers. I was eating corn on the cob that afternoon. Pin the blue ribbon upon his chest. That knocks the socks off of my wisdom tooth tail. Why do people need to top other people? I've never understood it, and I see it all the time. Obviously, people get something out of it. At best, people wait for your lips to stop. Yeah, as soon as... Okay, you, me! You, me!
So I love that when we think of like salespeople, if you're literally just on that call to go, yeah, okay, let me tell you my thing. You're never going to build that trust. You're never going to build that feeling, because you have to sell on emotion. People have to buy into you emotionally, and then you have to close on logic. But if you haven't sold them emotionally, no amount of logic is going to close them. What do I mean by that? So most of the time, a sale is going to be made way earlier on in the call than you think. Much earlier on in the call than you think. And before they even know whether they're sold or not. You're going to be sold, and they're going to be sold emotionally. Now, you can change that. If they're not sold, you can get them sold. But most of the time, that outcome is determined very early on in the call, because it's very much an emotional thing. And they want to know, can I trust this person? And do I think they're an expert? Do I really, for my situation, can I really trust this person with my business, with my revenues, with my marketing budget, with my hopes, with my dreams? And even if they're not consciously thinking about that, that's the whole thing behind it. They need to be able to feel that I'm the expert. They need to be able to feel that I've got their back. And that's going to happen very, very early on. So one way we're going to do this, and probably the most effective way you will ever do this, and not probably, it's the most effective way, is with this active listening. So
I'm actually kind of quiet off stage. A lot of people don't realize that.
So listening, the value of this cannot be understated. It is so very easy to start doing. It is the easiest technique to start doing. And I suggest that you start practicing it in your daily life, because if you're only practicing this on a sales call, it's going to be hard, because there's so many mechanics to the sales call, right? You got your script, you got your that person, all these things. Practice this with your friends. When you get off this call, commit, hey, I'm going to literally use these active listening techniques for the next 2 weeks in every social encounter I have. And I guarantee it's going to make your relationships better. It's going to make every area of your life better. And then when you get on the sales call, it's not going to be a technique you're using. It's going to slowly become a part of you. So I will have one actionable takeaway. Write this down, grab your pen, grab your paper. Take one actionable takeaway is commit to doing this for at least 7 days. You pick your time frame, but say, I'm going to do active listening in every single conversation that I have for the next 7 days, for the next 14, whatever that is for you. And then once you get done with that session, you decide if you want to sign up again for another active listening. But there's never been one time where I've had somebody commit to doing the active listening in every relationship for a week that they didn't come back and start telling me their sales calls just started going to a whole nother level. So here's the thing though, is 99% of the professional salespeople mess this one up. They mess this one up. They follow the script. They do everything right. I can't tell you how many salespeople, they use the right techniques, the right everything, and they just can't close the deal. And they don't know why. Why can't I close it? Why can't I close it? Why is it not working? Because that person's not emotionally connecting with you. They're not believing you. They're not trusting you. And this is how you do that. So when you start doing active listening, this is when you flip the switch for them. Now,
Tim, can I ask you a question?
100%,
All right.
yeah.
How do you utilize Zoom with that? Because, all right, so this is where I started tripping up, because prior to this, active listening for me meant really listening to the words that they're saying and the body language, and not to bring myself in it and translate, because it's a translation. What they really meant to say was, no, what they're saying is what they're saying, plus you see their body language. With now that we're in this Zoomlandia, like how do you work that? Because we're missing a component, right? We're missing the body language portion of it. How do you address that?
So it's pretty simple. As you were talking, I was definitely noticing your body language and everybody's body language here. If we kind of go to an extreme case, you could see like a radio host. They have to do a lot of vocal tonality cues that replace body language. So like if you're on a phone call, there's tonality cues. So not to get too complex, but I saw your body language, and the simple thing like this, I don't know if you noticed, what happens when somebody leans in? It shows they're interested, right? So when you were talking right now, I literally just lean in. That's a habit for me. When somebody's talking, is to lean in. And then a little bit of active listening, you could tell is like radio show hosts, they go, okay, that's interesting. And then, hey, I don't want to interrupt you, but can you clarify that last thing you said? You were saying that, before Zoomlandia, was most of your meetings before Zoomlandia, was that all in person, or did you do phone calls? What was that before? Mostly
face to face, and very few over phone. Yeah, so mostly face to face.
Mostly face to face. Okay. Well, we're so you see what I did there? It's like you could do that. Just truly paying attention to what they say, and just a simple lean in is not to get too complex. You can there's also tonality stuff you could do, but I think at the core of it, it's like, and Stephen Covey says this in his book. I forget exactly what I'm going to totally mess it up, but the best way to become an active listener is to like genuinely at your core is your character care about, like, I genuinely want to hear what Paul is saying. Right. And so, you can lean in, you can see the little bit of body language, you can see that, but one of the easiest things that I do a lot is just lean in. I do like the thinking. This is the universal kind of whatever for thinking, like, okay, interesting. And then just asking them questions or rephrasing what they just said. So Paul, you're saying most of what you did before was face-to-face. It sounds like you're really good at like just that networking, and you seem a little extroverted. So you seem like you do very well in that space, and kind of being thrown into the digital world, it just seems less natural to make that connection. You're kind of wondering, like, how do you form that same kind of connection, like in this digital environment? Am I hearing you right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So do kind of just what I did right there, like truly, like that one person asked you before, like, hey, can you go back in this? Cause I just want to make sure I heard you right. Right. Yeah. Another thing to do is visualize what they're saying. Like try to visualize like what they're saying, but also being aware of their body language. I know it sounds really weird, but like
actually, no, it doesn't. It's actually
go ahead.
The part that I love is that imagery part. Because as soon as you said, I was like, ooh, I love that. But it's sometimes people say it to you and then it clicks finally. What you said to me and what I heard was my body language affects their body language and their focus as well, right? So if I'm interested and stay focused on the conversation, they can also see my body language. So that's important as well. So besides the me monster, which I love, by the way, that's funny. My body language is also a big part of the listening as well. And now that we're here, they can see this as well. So
100%. And a really just practical tip is, here, I'll show you my little setup right here. So I've got my I'm watching you guys right here, but my camera, if you see where your faces are, it's at the very top of the screen. So when I'm talking to somebody, I put their picture as close to the screen, my camera, as possible. so that when I'm talking to them, you want to have eye contact, because that's one thing in person is eye contact. I've seen people that are on calls and they're doing this, like, oh, sorry, your picture's over here, but they're doing this. How connected do you think you're going to be on a call? Even if they're looking directly at you, it's like, it feels like they're distracted, right?
Yeah, totally.
So the closer you can put your, that person's, like if you look on my screen, you can see I have you guys really small. I normally put a person on there very, very small because I want to get them as close to the camera as possible. So when I'm talking to them, and like for you, I literally moved yours to the camera. So if Josh were to talk to me, I'd move his close to the camera, right?
Yeah.
So that's just a practical thing. Any other comments on that before we jump back in?
I have one, Tim. Another thing is, and I've done a ton over the phone, even though we've used webinars for like 15 years, but I do it over the phone, and I will tell people this, is I'll say, if I pause for a minute, know that I'm taking notes because I know they can't see me. So I'm doing what you said, painting that picture, telling them. So because sometimes you can't even be on a Zoom, and we're very effective. In fact, I would say super effective, even when someone can't see us, where they can't see your body language at all, like we can on a Zoom. So I'll be saying, and then another, and I know you're going to probably even share this point, but we also will feed it back just like you're doing. So the technique for active listening, one of the things that you're doing very well, but I'll take little notes and I'll say the same thing that you just did. So here's what you're saying, right? Okay, even if we're not trying to solve that issue yet, they know that they're being heard. And that's so huge. But that's what we do also. We just tell them what we're doing because we know they can't see us.
Yeah. I love that. And just a practical technique on that is, I think Stephen Covey says it, a bunch of other people say it, is if you say back to them what they just said to you, but put a question mark at the end, it's kind of like, that'll get them to clarify it more. So yeah, I love that. I love that. And this is stuff you can do on the phone, right, Steve?
Absolutely. 100%.
You know anything about phone sales?
A little bit.
Okay. You've been on one or two phone calls. All right, let's jump back in. And so obviously this isn't about a cheesy buddy type intent listening. The mental framework you have to have, put yourself in, is that you have to imagine yourself that, like Joshua, just imagine that this person has already hired you. This person's already hired you, and you're now consulting them because you want to be deeply listening, but also remember, we want to frame ourselves as the expert, right? We want to make sure that we're like, just because we're listening, like, hey, yeah, cool. Tell me what. It's not a buddy type listening. It's like a consultant, like they've already hired us type active listening. And so that when we're listening, so that when we give feedback, guess what? They're going to listen, but we want to give that feedback as if we're already hired by them. So kind of imagine yourself that you're already hired by this client. You're working through a solution with them, and try to really have that mental framework, and it'll really change the way that you're listening for sure. On this, so let's jump on. Listen to what they say with absolute intensity, like absolute intensity. I mean, we're talking about this is what I call hyperactive listening. You should be so focused on what they're saying, visualizing what they're saying, that like everything they're doing, that you're actually exhausted after the call. Like I challenge you, on top of doing the active listening in life, to try to be so like freaking focused on what they're saying that you're not using the 2-second rule after they're done talking. You're literally thinking so intently that when they're done talking, you have to kind of process what you're going to say, because you haven't been thinking about yourself at all. And you're going to see literally a magical flip in the way that conversations happen. Practice this. I wouldn't, do this in every conversation, the hyperactive listening, but practice it in a few conversations. It will take a little bit of energy from you, but you'll be shocked at how well people respond to that. Let's jump in. The 2-second rule, like I was just talking about, make sure I keep my energy high, because we need some high energy and enthusiasm to sell as well. We don't want to just get tired and boring. It don't matter how much we listen if we're falling asleep. I remember a guy I was a roommate with in college, and he was telling a story, and during his own telling of his own story, he yawned. I'm like, bro, how in the world are we supposed to be interested in your story if you're yawning during your story? Call them out, man. So I gotta remember to keep the energy and enthusiasm up because it's Thursday and it's a great day to have a great day. So let's jump back in. The 2-second rule. This is a really good practical one. Come over here, write a little sticky note right here and put 2 seconds. Just to remind yourself, because we forget, right? We forget. 2-second rule. Put it right by the camera, right where their face is going to be. And that 2-second rule means every time they're done talking, always pause for 2 seconds, just as a habit on your sales calls. Put 2-second rule up by your camera. So yes, we're going to practice active listening. Yes, we want to make it a part of who we are. And we want to be like these just awesome human beings that are just so caring and generous and take everybody to the next level. But every now and then we kind of forget how awesome we want to be and how caring we want to be and how much we're doing. Sometimes we have bad days and we're tired and the coffee was decaf this morning. Oh, they only had decaf. Who only has decaf? Unbelievable. So put that 2-second rule up there. It's really going to help you as you're building your active listening habit, because we want to do this so much that it starts to become a habit. And we will forget it from time to time, but over time it'll become more and more and more of a habit. And so always imagine this. Let's practice it right now. I don't know if you're on, Monet, but feel free to jump in if you want. Let's do a little practice role play between, I'm going to pick on Joshua and Joseph, the 2 J's. What's up, JJ? All right. Do a little back and forth. Joshua, why don't you be selling your product to Joseph? And Joseph, who should Joseph be? What's his title? What's his position? And what is how many VAs does he need?
Yeah. So Joseph, let's have you be like a director of customer support, and I'm selling you some outsourced support teammates.
Okay.
Joseph, great to meet you. How are you doing?
Not too bad. How are you doing, Josh?
I'm doing great. I'd love to kick it off by giving a short background on myself, but then really learn more about your business and diagnose how I could potentially help. Does that sound good?
Yeah, let's do it.
Excellent. So,
you did it 1 second. You got to count for 2 seconds between everything.
are we doing Mississippi seconds?
1, 1,000, 2, 1,000.
1,000, 2, 1,000. All right. So to give you more background, I started this back in 2018, outsourcing Bird, the electric scooter company's team in the Philippines. And since then, we've been helping from startups to Fortune 500s set up outsourced teams in the Philippines. Joseph, on your end, what are some pain points that your current US support team are experiencing?
Is in like what we're struggling with?
Yeah, is the volume too high for your current team size, or are there any areas that are kind of repetitive tasks that you think could be outsourced?
I think, yeah, we got quite a few repetitive tasks. We can outsource some stuff.
I'd love to dive in a little bit deeper into those. What's an example of one of those tasks?
I'm not sure how to answer that, to be honest, because I don't know what people are typically coming to you for.
Sure. For example, one of our existing clients, what we'll do is we do invoice review. So we've got a huge upload of manual invoices, and we'll review on a line item level and track any key metrics from those invoices.
Because so I've got a lot of problem with my invoices. I think I could outsource that.
Excellent. What's the current
Right.
volume?
Let's jump back in. Just as a little practice. I mean, it sounds so minuscule, but when you're in a real call, the 2-second pause, as opposed to, remember the extremes. Remember how I said comedians, they pick apart little small quirks that people have and they blow them up. And that was what the meme monster was, is that person that's just waiting to talk. Oh, okay, me. And so that little subtle thing is gonna connect. Now, it's not gonna be as powerful as if you're like genuinely active listening. So the 2-second rule should just be a reminder for you as you're going through to just do that 2-second rule, especially when people are really talking to you about their dreams and their, I'd love to get to, like, let's say if somebody's talking to me and they're like, we're stuck at kind of 50K. We've been doing like 50K and up and down for the last few years, a month. We've been doing 50K, and man, we just can't seem to break past that. And we've tried this, and it's just, then if I kind of lean in and go, okay. So it sounds like, you know, you want to break through, you kind of know that there's a solution there. You've tried a lot of things. So definitely congrats to you that you're just kind of consistently trying to figure out how to get this to work. Like, what do you think is the number one thing that's kind of holding you back? Right. So if we can kind of take more of that approach, it's going to feel much more genuine. So I just use the 2-second rule as more of a mechanical reminder, just in case, like, you know, I go back to my old habits. Like, I don't know how old anybody here is, but I'm 38. So I've any bad habits I've had, I've probably been using these bad habits for the last 38 years. So for me to break them in 2 weeks may happen and may not, you know, so just these little reminders help. All right, let's jump back in really quick. Okay, when you do this, you're going to see two things happen. Either they'll be talking because they weren't finished, or they will see and feel that you're actually listening to them, that you're not just trying to nod your head and go in for the close. So this is on the 2-second pause. You're going to be surprised when you start doing the 2-second pause, when you start doing the active listening, when someone stops talking, a lot of times you give them 2 seconds and they'll actually start talking again, like they weren't finished. And it's really weird when you're like, oh my gosh, I've literally been cutting people off this whole time, but just because they paused for a moment and I jumped in, I didn't realize that I was actually cutting them off. So when you do this pause, you're actually going to find that a lot of times they weren't done talking, and you giving them that little bit of room to kind of think about the next thing they're going to say allows them to finish what they're saying. Remember, it makes them feel like they're being heard. And does anybody remember what we said earlier on in the call? What is being heard? Almost like, what was the word we used? Being heard is almost, it's like the same thing as what?
Being loved.
Yeah.
And who here likes the feeling of being loved? I sure do. I love being loved, right? Who doesn't love being loved? So we want them to feel that feeling. They don't realize the feeling that they get when they're being heard, but they feel it. They don't realize how powerful that emotion is, but being heard and the feeling of being heard is incredibly powerful. So this gives them some room if they need to pause for a second, but it also, if they don't have more to say, it's going to give them that feeling of, remember, if we do a little, like the Zoom techniques, I always do the lean in. It's just actually just a habit of mine, because when I'm genuinely listening, what happens when you're really interested, right? You naturally lean in. And so if I'm genuinely interested in what this person's saying, remember, selling is serving and serving is selling, right? Then I'll lean in and I want to hear more. And then that might be like, I lean in and I maybe look this way and I look that way. Like I'm kind of trying to think about what I'm going to say, do a little body language and go, okay, what you're trying to say is this, right? That gives them room to, if they want to say some more, they can say some more, but it also makes them realize that I'm processing what they said after they said it, which means that I was listening to them when they said it. Did you guys catch that? Okay, because that's pretty powerful. Like, just like Paula said earlier, when somebody goes, can you go back and say that? Because I want to make sure I didn't miss it, right? Like, how powerful is that? Like, wow, that person is genuinely cares about what I'm saying. And you know what's funny today is everybody, because we're going after this happens every time I teach active listening. Everybody active listens on the training and they like never jump in and interrupt or raise their hand. So feel free to jump in and interrupt. We're not doing role play right now. If you got something to say, jump in. But I do want you to walk away and after this training, really do the active listening. Well, sound fair? Because it is funny when I'm training this. Everybody, like, when I'm done talking, no one wants to say anything. It's like, it's okay. You can talk. You can talk. You're in a safe place. So
I think when I'm in Colombia, I have the 2-second pause already built in with the internet latency. So I think I'm good to go.
So what you're really saying is no, I'm just kidding. All right. That's funny. That is funny. Okay. They're on this call. Remember this. We always have to remember this. Always remember this. Do not forget what I'm about to tell you right here. They're on this call. Why?
They have an issue or a problem they're looking to solve.
Because they have a problem and you have a solution. Or in their mind, so they have a problem and you know you have a solution, but in their mind, they're getting on the call, they have a problem and they are hoping you have a solution. They're hoping that Paula, that Joshua, that Joseph, that they can solve. They're hoping that, oh my gosh, I freaking hope that when I get on the call with Joseph, that he can actually solve my problem. They're not getting on there going, well, I hope they can't solve my problem and I wasted my time and I hang up on them. How many people do you think are getting on this call hoping that you cannot solve their problem? They're going, I hope Joseph can actually help me out. I hope Joshua, I hope Paul, I hope Monet can actually help me out. Now they might put up this tough guard. No, I'm doing great. You know, I just figured I'd jump on the call, you know. I'm like, great, but you're a busy person, right? Yeah. And I'm pretty sure you got a lot going on, right? Yeah, oh yeah, I got a lot going on. And I'm pretty sure you don't just waste your time on just chit chats on Zoom, right? No, I don't. Okay, so, you know, they're on here because they're hoping that you can solve the problem. They will put up a big front because like Paula said before, they're coming on with a salesperson and most people have a negative connotation as salespeople, but there's not one person getting on the call. So the only person that's messing this deal up is us because they've got a problem, we've got the solution, and they are literally hoping that we can solve that problem for them. So that they have to feel remember that to be sold, they have to feel emotionally first that you have a solution. And what I mean by closed by logic is obviously the numbers have to line up, right? But number one, they have to be sold emotionally. They have to feel that you can provide for them. You have to feel that you're on their side. And then obviously the mechanics of your product do have to line up and actually solve the problem. But number one, before you can even close them on the mechanics, they have to feel that keyword there is feel that you have the solution to the problem, right? They have to feel, keyword there, feel, you're the one who can bring them to the promised land. They need to feel that you're the one that can bring them there. And they have to feel they can trust you to bring them there. Okay, so, you know, I know this person's done it for people before. I saw their testimonies, but can they do it for me? You know, are they going to fight for me? Are they going to fight for my success? Are they going to fight? They have to feel that these feelings have to be real. And they don't even realize that these feeling requirements are required for them to buy from you. This is happening to them on a subconscious level. But they have to feel you have the solution, you can bring them to the promised land, and that you're the one to bring them there, right? So as you start to do this, you know, one new thing we're adding in our script at Pima is we add, because we're promoting our sales calls as free coaching calls. And what we do is we have a little section after the question and answer. We go, hey, so I want to give you some feedback, you know, and then we go through and we give them feedback on how to improve their leads. We give them feedback on how to improve this stuff. We give them feedback. And so if we've done the active listening right during the call, and then when we go in to give them feedback on their product or service, this is going to position us as an expert and as that consultant. And that you're an expert at what you do, because remember, well, what do we say? They're coming on this problem because they have a problem and we have a solution, and they're hoping that we're the expert that can help them with this problem. But if they're the ones leading the call and they're the ones that are running you over and they're the ones that are more, in their mind, they're more of an expert than you are, how confident do you think they'll be consciously or subconsciously that you're the expert to bring them to the promised land, that you're the one who's going to actually help them with these things? If in their mind, they literally feel like they know more about this than you do. What do you think the likelihood would be, Paula?
They're closing.
Yeah, it'd be very, 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 very small. So we want to active listen, and then we want to position that in a way, like I said earlier in the call, like we're consultants, so that we can actually position in a way that we're the experts, and then we give them value. Even if you don't position your sales calls a coaching call, we're constantly twisting around. For, you know, we were doing free blueprints for a while where we would call people on the call and then, okay, well, here's how to do your revenue. Here's how to do this. And people got value. People saw us as the expert. That was complicated for my sales reps. Not everybody was as good at math as I was. So it was very difficult to train people on. So we stopped doing that. But nevertheless, you want to position yourself as an expert, and so that they feel like you can bring them to the promised land. Now, someone that they can trust, and because you listen so damn well, they're actually going to listen to you when you talk, right? When you've listened this well, it's like this, just people will listen to you more. And when you are hyperactive listening, you're giving those pauses, then when you have something to say, the floor is yours, my friend. They're going to like you. They're going to trust you. They're going to see that you valued them. You valued what they're going to say. And what does that mean when you start talking? What do you think? What do you think they're going to do when you start talking? If you valued what they said, if you truly cared about what they said, do you think they're going to listen a little bit more?
Absolutely.
You think they're going to value what you're about to say and your opinions a little bit more?
Absolutely.
Right? And you feel like they're going to trust you a little bit more, like you actually understood their problem, their need?
Yeah. Yeah.
100%. And if they truly feel like you understood them, and now you're giving them some feedback, which is closing them, moving them towards the close, offering them a solution, offering them a product, giving them some, whatever that is, they're going to trust you more. Like, oh, this person really understands my problem. They're not just trying to sell me a product. They really understand my problem. Now they're giving me a solution to that problem, and that is tailored, and they understand my problem. They're not just trying to sell a product. So sales is service. In this, you're going to figure out what they truly want. And I always give the example of, hey, if I'm trying to motivate a salesperson that wants to make 200K, okay, well, great, fantastic. Let's get you there. Very, very possible. So I know salespeople making over $1 million a year. Why do you want to make 200K? Oh, well, I'd like to travel and stuff like that. Okay, cool. You want to travel? How long do you want to travel for? Me and my wife have been talking about it for 5 years. Great. Then go through all that. What else? What else does it do for you? Well, we want to put our kids in private school. Okay. You want to put your kids in private school? How long have you and your wife been talking about that for? Oh, well, we've been talking about it even before they were born. Honestly, it's just so dang expensive. Okay. So it gets you some freedom to travel. It gets the kids in the school that your kids want to get. And what else does it do for you? Well, I like nice watches, and this is just an Apple Watch. I want to upgrade my watch. Okay, cool. So you like status. That's important to you. Status, a nice car. Yeah, okay, cool. So now we know for them, giving that freedom to travel, and probably his motivation to be able to give that to his wife, give that to his kids, and then also be able to, have the nicer things so people can see, hey, this dude worked hard. This guy's successful, right? It doesn't matter whether or not those are our motivations. That is their motivations. And when we listen intently, we're going to figure out what is their actual motivation. So what they truly want and why they want it. This is what some people would call, like, what is their dominant buying motive? What is the number one motive that they would want to buy this for? And if it's a great sales rep and their goal is to make 200K with me, and they're interviewing with me, dude, I want this guy on my sales team. It's not going to be selling them on the $200,000. It's going to be selling them on, hey, one, you can make a heck of a lot more here at Pima than that. And two, we want to not just be a part of making you that money. I want to be a part of your journey about helping you get your kids in private school. I want to help you and your wife take those trips you need. It probably means that you're going to need more vacation time every year. And if you're producing, we're open to giving you more vacation time so you can enjoy those trips. Right? So how much different does that feel versus selling them, here's how we're going to get you 200K. Right? It's a lot more powerful, but we're never going to get that if we're not active listening. We're just going to be fixated on the $200,000 that the person said that they want from us. So whatever that goal is of your client, if you just keep trying to sell them on how you can get them to that goal, and you don't figure out why they truly want that, why they wanted it, what the motives below it, then you can't actually get them across the finish line. And again, this is what active listening does. This is digging deep. Why is that important to you? You know what, Steve, I noticed that you keep saying the word impact. You've said impact on our sales call a lot of times. What is it about impact? Why is impact so important to you? Well, I really believe, and I really want to build a huge company so I can give a lot of it away. I've got some different organizations I would love to give millions and millions and millions to, on top of helping our clients. I just, whatever that is. Now I know my story with Steve is so much bigger than helping Steve get clients. My story with Steve is helping him build that mission, helping him help his clients. But beyond that, as he starts making millions and millions, I want to help him give to his charity. And I see that, again, sales is service, because if you have something that can help your prospect get to that next level, then it is your ethical duty to figure out what their motivator is and to paint that picture to get them across the line. How you can help them. How can you do that? How can you paint that picture for them that you can help them, that you could be the one to bring them to the promised land? And we'll end with this. One of my favorite people in motivational and sales trainers, he's no longer alive. It's Zig Ziglar. And he said, you can have everything you want in life you want if you'll just help other people get what they want. And I think it's actually, the real quote is, you can have everything you want in life as long as you can help enough other people get what they want in life. And the point of that is that if we can truly see selling as a service, we can truly see us helping people out, we can truly be convicted about our product, really genuinely helping people out, we can have anything that we want in life, period. And so my call to action today for all of you is that we go away and that you commit to the next 7 days, to the next 14 days, whatever that is, that in every interaction you have, that you're going to do the active listening and put a note up on your camera. The 2-second rule. That 2-second rule is going to remind you of this entire training. It's not just going to remind you of the 2-second rule. It's going to remind you of your entire training. And I guarantee, we talk 1 month from now, I guarantee if you actually do this, if you actually implement it, you're probably going to tell me it's the most powerful thing sales technique you've ever used. And this is something that every technique that you layer upon active listening will work 10 times better, because you're not just using a technique, you're building it on a genuine feeling that this person, Paul, Paula, Monet, Joseph, Joshua, Steve, they actually care about what I'm saying. And so when you then go use the closing technique, it comes across so authentically. That's it. I hope you enjoyed the training. Every time I've trained somebody on this training, trained on the training, it's kind of weird. Anyways, anytime I've given this to somebody and they've actually used it, they've always come back to me and said, oh my gosh, this was a freaking game changer for our sales, for our company. But even people will tell me, yo, like, dude, even my wife is happier. Like, I don't know what happened, man, but I'll just let you know, my wife has been very happy, and so have I, if you know what I mean. So use this. It's going to be great. If you stayed for that bonus training, that's right below. You can click that link right below. It's right there. It's going to help you do 2 things: sell more and scale more. Get that free exclusive training now. Again, this is Tim with the Tim Dodd Show, and I will see you on the inside.